Step into the game, we're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot US species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ashen moderates, drop the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you wanna make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love it been keen, though. Whoop made known. Such rain Charleston. Slide, plum ram known. Open to the scene. For the lumber supreme. Charles laying down facts with that southern yellow bling. Mac got that US swagger like strong timber beams. Gregg's insights on spruce, rewrite the themes. Got the buy side talk, we stacking that flow. Selling knowledge, every week we still a show. Join the Lumber Word crew, let your business grow. For the sharpest minds, is what a place to go.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode, the post-NAWLA Kansas City episode of the Lumber Word, episode number 146. We're streaming this live. We'll have the audio version out tomorrow. It's the 12th of November, about 11:30 Central Time. Glad we got the time down today, guys. I mean, Charles had to wrangle kitties or cattle or whatever he does, and
I mean, we're gonna mess people up going live a half hour early. I mean, we went a half hour early for Charles, and then he dissed us anyway, huh?
I think we'll be just fine. Matt, we missed you at Kansas City last week.
Yeah, tell me about it. Hey, you guys, I don't want to say a word for like the next 10 minutes. I want to be a listener. Why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, do you have 20 minutes? Here, I'll go.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Ash.
I do.
Well, just so everybody knows, NAWLA is the North American Wholesale Lumber Association. Every year, they have a couple different meetings. This is the Traders Market meeting, which is generally the big get-together of everybody that trades wholesale lumber, mills, etc. They pick different cities to do it. And Gregg, I think you hold the right. You've been to every single one since the first one.
Yeah.
Gregg was a former chairman of NAWLA, so he knows all about.
I was Traders. I ran the Traders Market back in the day, and when it was originally we did it was in Dallas for a number of years. Then I moved it to Chicago, which was Chicago was, I think, universally everyone thought that was the ideal location.
The big bar
down there in the Hyatt Regency. Matt, Ash and I were talking a lot, post show. I always go into the show and want to try and pull something out of it. And I always feel like I walk away with some value. This year was a little tougher. We both felt that the attendance was a little underwhelming. And my biggest complaint about it is, all these years that NAWLA has tried to hold on and limit who could come and who couldn't come. I think it's finally taken its toll on the traders market. We walked around the show floor, and obviously there was a number of Canadian suppliers that were not there for, some obvious reasons and some and some strategic reasons by some other players in the industry. But it was, listen, it's always great to see, longtime friends and good people. That's great. But I truly believe that, two things is NAWLA's kind of gotten away from the central tenet of how it started in that, centrally located. I don't like being in two or three different.
Quick aside. One thing good that came out of NAWLA years ago was when you were running it, when you moved it to Chicago. That's when I first met you. Literally the first time I ever met you was at that show. In fact, I went to that cocktail party get together when they were introducing you as the president of NAWLA and met you for the first time. And so that's a nice story between the two of us. And the second thing that I wanted to get to on the NAWLA thing is, what is your understanding, being a former president of NAWLA and kind of understanding the mission of NAWLA in a perfect world, and how you view the event and what it should be in your mind?
NAWLA's been an organization. It's surrounded about networking and education. mean, they do a great job with lots of their education stuff, wood basics stuff for new time, for new entrants into the industry, Executive Management Institute. So I mean, they do good stuff. They've got regional meetings, which are good for a bit, but it's about networking and education. And man, I think that there needs to be some real wholesale looking at it. I mean, I told this to other people, and and I'm sure I'll get some calls. I think that the Montreal Wood Convention may be a better venue right now.
Yeah.
Now
it's a bigger
here's the reason
event.
why, and this is for us because we're lumber guys.
We heard that from a couple people.
We walked around the show floor, and there's lots of other products, building materials, et cetera, which fall under the tent of. There's lots of NAWLA members that are distributors, and they do more than just lumber. They're not they're not monolithic like we are. I mean, we're kind of dinos in this industry. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Always a great show. I was a little underwhelmed. Did have a couple of really great Kansas City steak dinners, and I think the highlight clearly was Thursday night, Ash, when we were out with two guns.
Yeah, that was good.
I mean, we were with two guns, and two guns with no guns.
Yeah, that was
and
pretty.
No guns with no guns.
That was pretty good. I mean, Matt? Good question. What do I think about it? I mean, it was an easy trip for us. 45-minute plane flight, right? I flew over my old school. How I can tell it was our school? Because our football stadium's the only one that really goes east-west in the United States instead of north-south. The show itself was okay, and I'm trying to think. It was a little bit slower. Is that because business is slow? Not many people went. There was a LMC show going on at the same time in the Northeast. Some of the big mills, like Gregg said, weren't there. Fraser, Resolute, a couple other ones. I scheduled a lunch for Thursday, and Gregg said you shouldn't schedule a lunch for Thursday. That's when the big luncheon is. There was no luncheon, no big luncheon, or no keynote speaker, which is kind of cool to go to. I like those, but I get it. That wasn't there. Somebody made a comment that the bar was easy at the Marriott to find people, and it was a pretty tight, nice spot down in Kansas City. And like Gregg said about the Montreal Wood Show, is a lot of people said they like going to that because then they can see all their mills, all their customers in a central location. I think that's what maybe Gregg was getting at. And then it said there was
lumber centric. We don't have a lot of other stuff there. It's about lumber.
And there were 50 orbiters on the outside or 100 orbiters on the outside of the show that didn't even sign up for it, that were, taking meetings outside.
They were their pirate.
I know somebody that used to do that.
Hey, Steve, how are you this morning? Yeah, look, I've done it before too at some places, but walking around the show, it said there was 1,100 in attendance, but it was a big area that they had. And so,
yeah, I don't like being in a huge convention hall where you only fill up like a third of it, right?
It was set up very nice.
What was the tone?
The food was very nice. I think.
You want to go
tone.
there?
Let's go to the tone now after we've talked about the actual.
Yeah, let's get back into what we really do, which is talk about the past, the present, and the future.
That's what we went down there for. The one thing we talked about, what do we want to get out of it? We wanted to find the tone, what the zeitgeist was in the market, or what are people thinking? Or as Gregg always says, where it's everybody ready to jump off a roof yet or not, right? And
so you have to figure that the most, the people that are there are probably some of the most positive. If you're really negative, then you wouldn't go. But it was really hard to find anybody other than our friend Thomas Mende that was positive about prices for next year. I mean, so that's not a surprise. That's a shout out to him. Yeah, it was, even somebody that tried to put a happy face on, it was pretty easy to call out and say why is that?
Hey, Gregg, if you have Euro 2x4 16s that are spruce and not pine, you should be able to get $750, $1,000 for it.
Thank
If
you,
it's
Bob.
spruce and not pine, you'll get $750. Otherwise, don't sell it.
I sense there's a story in there somewhere.
Yeah, we'll give you a side story on that
We'll
later.
give you the sidebar on that.
I sense a little sarcasm.
But yeah, no, I mean, Matt, it was, and then, right on cue, Thursday night, West Fraser announced permanent curtailment of 100 Mile House and Augusta, Georgia. And that was met with a real, that was met with a yawn. I mean, I think the market did open 50 cents higher on Friday and then sold off. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, November futures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about those is, that dinner that night, everybody thought that spread would blow out the next day. Well, it didn't blow out the next day, but it certainly, the NOK-Jan spread has kind of moved out to one of the kind of nicest rolls if you're a hedger that you could probably get. So we walked in this morning and we looked at November, which does it expire Friday?
12:05 Friday.
Yes.
And we were like, damn, there's a lot of open interest left in November. What's going to happen? I heard Gregg talking on the phone. I lifted his comment and put it on X. Gregg, thank you for that. I said, hey, is November going to go a $50 discount to cash with Hemfer 520 Chicago, Spruce 530, and then is everybody that rolled to January going to have to grip it and rip it when it drops down to like the 540, 550 mark? That's what I heard you basically say, Gregg. And you also said it's a lot of open interest to...
This is the most open interest we've had with 3 days to go in the contract. We know we have wood that we're going to deliver into the contract. We know that, there's at least one big major that's got a list 4 pages long of things to EFP,
which we did some with.
Yeah. I mean, there's some. You got to be selective, but there are some good basis opportunities there when you're looking at. I mean, the spread right now is $65. I mean, if you don't like the outright price, oh yeah. By the way, here's the really nice thing about if you want to EFP with this company, you can book. Hang on, 135 times 27.5 times 4. Yeah, you can book $20,000 per car of profit in your November, and be long your cash at a reasonable price for the first quarter of next year.
Pretty good spiff.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
is that good?
I did some of those today also. It occurred to me.
Need to do something. Everybody should do something, right?
Yeah, I just did 5 cars. I mean, it's a hobby at this point. But the way I look at it, so while I'm doing these EFPs, I'm looking at the absolute numbers that are given to me on the board. At the time, it was like November was at 505 and January was at 575 and March was at 605. And I think to myself, I can put a 4-month trade on for $100. They're going to pay me $25 a month to put that trade on. And I can sleep at night, right?
Yeah.
Well, here it actually becomes more like a 2.5-month trade by the time the wood actually gets into my yard, right? So I'm going to have to carry the money for 2.5 months, the risk for 2.5 months, but they're going to pay me $100 bill to take that risk. I don't have any other.
It's not a risk. I mean, you're putting on a managed trade where you're locking in a profit.
Everything we do is a risk, right? Everything we do, we analyze from the long or short position or neutral. Where's the risk in this? So how does it blow up on you? I don't know. It's hard to blow up $100 bill. And so in my life,
people in Kansas City that have just figured out how to do it, though.
Hello, podcast listeners. This is Ashley from the Lumber Word. Next week, I'll be tuning into the Fast Markets CME Southern Yellow Pine Futures webinar. Again, that's next Tuesday, November 18th at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll learn more about the new and currently trading Southern Yellow Pine lumber futures contract. In Kansas City at the NAWLA Traders market last week, I stopped by the Fast Markets and CME booth where they both reminded me how important this webinar is. You'll hear real-world hedging strategies and live insights from both Fast Markets and the CME group on liquidity, trade dynamics, and where Southern Yellow Pine price volatility may come from next year. If you're anywhere in the Southern Yellow Pine lumber supply chain, this is a must-attend free webinar. Head to fastmarkets.com/lumber talk. Again, fastmarkets.com/lumber talk, and click the purple button to register for free. I will also put this link in my show notes. Looking forward to seeing you there next week.
I mean, if you just want to operate from the long position naked all the time, you're going to lose $100 in this market. You know, we have had two massive sell-offs since August, both of them tied to cost of production increases. So like from an economics perspective, this doesn't make much sense. The cost of production's gone up, the contract's tied to that particular piece of material in that region, and those producers are now suffering higher costs of production, substantially so. So in August, we had the ADD and the CVD go up quite a bit. And then was it in September, October? I can't remember how long ago it was that the Trump tariff came out, the 10% extra, you know, like throw salt water on the wound type thing. And in the face of that, we've had like $180 sell-off and $135 sell-off, and one little mini rally in between. If you go back and look at this year in hindsight, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know, this is kind of an anti-textbook year. Be following the laws of economics, does it? It's very strange.
No, well, one interesting thing, if you look at, it helped us significantly at Sitka USA sitting here this year. I came in and gave Gregg a pat on the back and said thank you again this morning, because basically he's been short every contract and rolled every contract at an average price of, I don't know what it was. It was, and if you
$50 probably.
It's a lot though. I mean, that money adds up. And if you think about whether you're a sawmill or just a seat of your pants wholesaler or a guy that sells jobs out ahead, you know, a guy like working for Shelter or Idapac Matthews, you know, apartment tied guys, or if you were, or a mill guy, you know, or a distributor guy, what has been your best orders this year? It's everything that you sold ahead was your best orders, right? And then people stop thinking about it that way when they think it's futures. But literally, if I sell 4 contracts, I just sold a car 4 months from now. I just sold a job ahead. It's no different than somebody at one of the apartment builders aligned type companies doing some bidding on a March shipment apartment job. I can just do the same thing and sell the March contract at 605. And that's the best order I can get in the room today. Why don't more people look at it that way? I
had this conversation with Ashley this morning. That was like he came in and had the whole thing about that why, and I'm like going, hey, don't worry about that. I don't really care. I mean, I don't want everyone to do the right thing, because part of what happens is, you know, the dislocation is what provides the opportunity for us. And we were having the conversation relative to Southern Pine, because we really want to get this Southern Pine contract going. Just a quick aside, in a couple of the conversations that I had with people in talking about market share of Southern Pine, and one of the reasons why, you know, in the face of you know, 45% additional cost in terms of CVD, AD, and tariffs, how prices can be so cheap, yet pine is still a significant discount, right? Yeah. So that's part of, you know, whether you're, you know, U.S. species or your Canadian species, you're anchored somewhat by what yellow pine is doing. And, you know, we're going to get some updated production numbers, but as the last numbers we had, you know, Southern pine production was up, you know, it was up about 1% for the year. So
we really haven't seen, I mean, we haven't really seen much production growth year over year. We have probably going to end up with the same or lower imports, right?
No, imports will end up being down probably in excess of of 10% for the year. For 7
Okay,
months,
and
they
then
were down like 5.6%. And
we're
the
losing
reports,
production out of Canada,
yeah,
right?
the reports we have are that run rates now are somewhere between 25 and 40% down from what they were in the early part of this year.
Right. So this is, I guess, if I had to look forward, my biggest fear of selling the January and March contracts, even at these big premiums, is that when it comes time for our normal seasonality to kick in and people actually start caring about stacking lumber again, getting ready for the spring build, then all of this stuff that's occurring right now on the production side is going to matter all of a sudden. And we haven't felt a short squeeze. We haven't felt a no quote situation environment here for quite some time. And I'm not saying I'm like expecting it, but if we got into a situation in January or February where everybody was trying to buy the same things all at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm trying to set my first half of the year up right now today to try to avoid that. So that's my thought.
Just real quick, you were talking about Southern Pine. I wanted to let everybody know that CME and Fast Markets on November 18th next week is having a hedging lumber risk in 2025 and navigating Southern Yellow Pine futures. I put in, for those watching, I put down in the corner here a link of where you can go to sign up for that. And then I will also put it in my Spotify and Apple, a link to that. So it's free. Everybody should go to it. Dustin's going to be talking there on economics, and there'll be a couple other people talking about how the Southern Yellow Pine contract trades.
Yeah, we really need a concerted effort by the industry to figure out how to get that to be a viable contract. Listen, that's the largest production species in North America now, and having that as a viable tool for the industry is really important.
Matt, what's that?
I just think that if the mills that listen to our podcast, and I'm aware of there's several mills that listen to our podcast, many, I would say. If you're not involved in the futures contract as a hedging operation or a forward selling operation, that's the one group that I think should really be the most incentivized to open up a futures contract and get some good advice on how to utilize futures as part of your order file planning strategies and how to lock in higher prices for your sawmill in the future. That's the biggest hole in our industry, I believe, is that the producers themselves are either afraid or unaware or what. I'm not sure what. They don't see the value in it, but I disagree wholeheartedly. And I feel like that's the big hole.
I think that on certainly on some producers, it's not a decision that's made at the sales and marketing level. It's a decision that needs to be made up in the C-suite with the treasury. Because listen, if you're sitting on sales and marketing and lose millions of dollars being short futures contracts, they're not going to unless you've got that buy-in up top, you're going to lose your job because you should have known. Lumber producers always think the market's going to be higher. That's their nature. Otherwise, they wouldn't be lumber producers.
Greg,
right?
You said something interesting Matt, when we were talking this morning. So where the money's going to come from, Matt, or the volume and open interest? Somebody outside the industry that sees this wide bid-ask spread and wants to throw a whole bunch of cash at it and get somebody to trade the physical in and out for them while they clip a huge freaking coupon, right? Big company is going to be like, it's not too big, but it's meaningful enough we could throw $20 or $30 million at this and have a nice little return.
Well, it's going to be,
we could shut up about it and clip the coupons ourselves.
Yeah. Look, I do think it's a valuable tool. If I was going to start a sawmill and spend $150, $200 million to do that, I think I'd want to have some kind of a hedging strategy against my future sales prices.
Yeah.
People hedge currencies, people hedge energy. Yeah. Why not hedge your actual finished product? How do cattle ranchers figure out how to do it, dude? Everybody thinks ranchers are dumb, but they're out there doing all kinds of,
Well, we don't have Charles on, so we're not going to be able to find out.
I mean, Ashley knows there's a whole bunch of Midwest farmers that are really wealthy, and they're pig farmers, and he's got some friends that actually do this, and they have huge futures presences, and they're
I think it's all about having futures aren't something that you just do on a one-shot deal. You need to have an embedded risk management group that manages it from within the group, not outside of the group. And they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And they got a digital screen, and they don't have to ask for somebody's help. They just shut up and click buy and sell, and then move the wood against it, or, and do that kind of thing. And I think some you'll see that. I saw it when I was at big companies doing swaps. You'd walk into these big VCs that just bought a lumber mill, and they knew about it in a second and would do stuff with you. They didn't even think twice about it because they did it in every other aspect in business they were in.
Yeah.
The thing that we have in our business, a lot, and this is not a condemnation of anybody, most people that make it up into a management level that are in heads of marketing came from dialing for dollars and selling lumber. And by the time they get up there, they've got this attitude that I run this, and you start asking about futures. They don't want to say they don't know anything about it. They just don't. It's not part of their DNA as managing risk. It should be done by people that know how to do it. Gregg has a lot of metal doing it. It's not for everybody. As you know, Matt, like if you got to be going home willing to see down $1 million P&L and up $1 million P&L and treat it the same way, right?
Yep.
Greatest thing to happen to a hedger is to lose money on futures. Greatest thing.
I don't understand that, Gregg. Why can't you make it on both? You'll hear that from CEOs, CFOs, treasurers, and it's crazy, right?
Well,
you can, but it's really, really hard. You got to be a little lucky.
I hate being short January. I almost universally lose money being short January, but I'm going to stay short January.
You can't ignore a $70 spread, can you?
Right. And it's a question of like, hey, maybe I'm going to lighten up in terms of, if I was short, X, now I'm going to be short X minus a certain number.
Yeah. Right.
Because honestly, do we think that the price of lumber is going to be able to stay at, sub $400 on 2x4s?
I don't know.
For very long.
I'm a disappointed person in the fact that maybe the first time in my career, Fraser announced something and everybody said yawn and went back to sleep, and then the market went down.
But it wasn't coming off until the end of the year anyway, right?
Yeah, it will matter. 100 Mile is a mill that supplies the Western United States pretty well on the BN. So that feeds markets like LA and Phoenix and Albuquerque and, West Texas.
Albuquerque.
It hits Western BN markets pretty well. And so it's just one less mill. That's the old B-call mills that work on the BN real well out west with freight. It's just one more gone. And so if you're a guy in Tucson, Phoenix, California, Texas, New Mexico, Denver, Billings, Montana, whatever, you're served by the BN, and you've been feasting on all this Prince George and Southwood for the old B-call mills on the BN for really your whole career. It's like that pile of wood is shrinking. And then your freight costs go up dramatically if you bring it out of Alberta. It's really expensive to take lumber from Alberta down to Phoenix, for example, or New Mexico, or California. And then it limits your it limits your options of where you can get your wood bought from. Also,
but isn't the U.S. Northwest becoming the beneficiary of that, like with hem fir going more places?
A little bit. I think I would think that we are.
I'm working really hard at being respectful and not talking over people. I was taken to the woodshed recently by the big boss, who said that I don't listen very well, and I said, "What?
You were at my house. Funny. You were at my house.
What you said about West Fraser announcement. I actually look at that as the most positive thing that I can draw. The fact that you had that announcement and the market didn't care, didn't do anything. I I kind of equate where we are right now with the guy that's gotten kicked in the nads a couple times and has just buckled over, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a multifamily, if I'm a independent pro dealer, if I'm anybody with any money, I say that over the next 30 days, 30 to 40, I guess 30 days will put you middle of December, right before we shut, but right before we're done for the year.
Yeah.
Your only risk of buying Q1 is that cost of carry.
Yeah.
The odds, I put the odds at today's prices being lower than today's prices, or things that you're going to be able to buy over the next several weeks, being lower in Q1, 5% chance. Now, I don't know.
So you have a
I don't know if
95%
they're gonna- I
upward
don't know,
lane.
like the people that say that we're going up, $100 or $200. I don't know if that's going to happen, Matt. But I do believe that there's a lot of items that you'll more than recover your cost to carry if you're willing to buy and hold right now.
So since most of the big,
I mean, I think that's about as bullish. That's about as that I can't jump on the table and pound buy more than that.
Yeah. Bye.
so,
Bye. Bye.
so so if you're if
Bye-bye.
you're if you're still one of the few big regional independents left, or a big independent, and you can still go to your banker and get money, and this isn't a how do we say this disclaimer, this isn't a this
Not
is just
advice.
our
Well,
idea.
you can seek your own financial
Yeah.
advice. I mean, this is merely for
Yeah.
entertainment purposes.
Be a good opportunity to take business from some of the people that aren't willing to put inventory in the ground right now in Q2 of next year, Q1, or whenever that, because there's a lot of people that aren't buying inventory and putting it on the ground. They're running it really light. We all know it by the way trucks are getting checked, and by the way orders are coming across with highly mixed loads on it.
I did get the update this morning. One of our mills that has been down, they were going to come back up. They're saying now they're going to come. They're not going to come back to Q2 of next year.
Okay.
And that's my thing is I think there's going to be significant more. There's obviously Fraser announced a permanent curtailment on those mills, but I think there's going to be some curtailment that guys will shut down with the plans to reopen, and it'll be late Q2. It won't be early Q2.
J-Dog is kind of backing up what we said. Buy cash, sell the board if you're nervous. Free money, no brainer, more than covers the cost to carry.
I mean, J-Dog knows what he's talking about there.
There's been several free money situations this year. It's if you're a hedger, it's been a pretty good year. Now, if you're an inventory manager, it's a pain in the butt because the cash market. It's not like they're calling us and buying them hand over fist. It's like it's kind of fun to be busy, right? At the same time, like Gregg talks, if you're losing money in your futures account, that means your cash phone is ringing off the hook. And so,
be cheap, Matt, be cheap, be busy, be cheap.
Yeah, no, trust me,
baby. BCBB.
I'm busy all the time. I can see how people are frustrated though in the market. And look, I don't want to toot our own horn too much, but we as a group have been warning the industry since this summer that it was going to slow down in the second half of the year and don't expect it to get better in the fall and winter. And I think it's actually worse than what I expected. In terms of pricing power, I think it's a bit of a surprise to me that November's at 500, 505. I thought 520, 530 was sort of it just blasted right past that without even slowing down. And so the market feels really sick. If you're a cash trader sitting in your desk here the last 3 or 4 days, it feels really sick to you when you look at the board and what it's been doing. But to Gregg's point, it's not, 1 week doesn't make a year. 1 week doesn't even define a month. And I see these types of big sell-offs as opportunities. Like, well, what can I buy? I mean, if I go out and buy 5 cars of 16s and get to name my price, what happens if I try to buy those a month from now and they say, well, we don't have them?
Ben,
I don't get to name my price either.
That's the one thing, that trade that really came in, 2x4 and 2x6 16s. I mean, Look at 2x4.
It's the only thing people want to buy.
Yeah, but I mean that's the 2x4 16s. Those things have sold off how much in the last 30 days? And 2x6 16s kind of haven't done a lot of anything. They've kind of moved up and sat there.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I think 2x6 sneaky good.
2x6
To tell you the
16s
truth.
are up $50, and 2x4 16s are down $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, we're approaching kind of the same price on both. And
But
they were $200 apart. Ash, you pointed this out a while ago, is that when that trade turns, 2x6 16s will be trading at a premium to 2x4 16s either later this year or certainly in the first quarter.
Yeah, it'll take a while, but it's going that way.
Does it seem to you guys that 2x6 white woods, whether it's hem fir or spruce or even Doug fir, is significantly more interesting now than it was 60 days ago?
Absolutely.
Just even randoms, even short lumber, even 2x6 8s. I mean, I just got an email that was one of the local guys here took a truck of 2x6 8s at a pretty high number. I'm kind of shocked actually. For usually you just have to blow those things out for half cost.
Well, that'll bring it to another interesting point. Talking to all the Euro people, Gregg, what's our run rate now? About how much do you think Euro's coming over at today's pace versus?
I mean, it's down. I mean, we've ranged between 25 and 50%. I think a lot of it depends on the port. I mean, there's some ports that may be down only 25. There's some ports that may be down 40 or 50%. And it's not at today's prices. It's not like you can envision that and with a 10% tariff that you're going to get that substantially more in the first quarter. I think, and that's where you'll really see the slowdown. We talked to one of the biggest shippers that said his initial commitments for next year are going to be down 25% from this year. We know of another big shipper that says, yeah, our mill's running 3 days a week, one shift for the U.S.
We're excited to welcome another sponsor to the Lumber Word, Lehman's Lumber Guide. Matt Lehman has spent decades studying lumber cycles, and what makes his analysis different is that he doesn't just tell you where the market is today, he shows you where and why it moves. People across the lumber and panel supply chain, from mills to traders, builders, and buyers, have found Matt's work spot on and made it part of their go-to playbook for making smarter decisions. I'm Ashley Buckhold, host of the Lumber Word. I've had a chance to dive into Matt's publication and attend his events, and they're always fascinating. What really stands out is the community around them. People across the supply chain learning together, sharing insights, and sharpening their skills, just like we do here on the podcast. Lehman's Lumber Guide is now part of the Lumber Word family, and we're grateful for their support. After you head to laymansguide.com, that's LAYMANSGUIDE.com, click on the 1-month free trial and sign up today. Thanks again to Matt and his team for helping our industry learn and grow together.
So one of the guys that you talked to, you mentioned earlier in the pod, that was presenting a case for bullishness going into next year, was a European importer. And can you do your best to describe the conditions under which this theory was based?
Log cost
from their perspective.
Log cost. I mean, it's somewhere between. You need somewhere between 600 and 750 FOB U.S. ports to come out right now. And I say somewhere between 600 and 750 because, I've heard higher numbers than that, but it's between 600 and 750 FOB port for them to come out based on the current log cost. And then there's also a question of log availability.
Yeah.
Domestic markets are marginally better, maybe in some cases. So really that's what it has to do with, Matt.
One place you're going to see it, Matt, and we've seen it, the wides, they were, the ports were getting slammed with 2x8 16s and 2x10s and 2x12s. Though that's kind of dried up. I mean, hell, for the last 30 days, if you had a 2x8 16 and spruce, you could sell it all the way from up north, all the way to Florida, right?
Yeah.
For certain people.
And 2x8 in general is tight everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about how could you build a case for significantly higher numbers, like say February, March, April timeframe. And if I pressed you on it, what would you say?
We're going from the J-Dog, man, we really appreciate your input in this. If more people were sharing with us, you make us better.
He said, where do you go with the wood then? What we're saying is they're not cutting it.
Yeah, it's the production is down. That's where you go. And you're right. I mean, costs don't affect demand, but they do affect supply.
Matt, were you asking me where I think what would be a bullish scenario?
Okay, so you heard what was said to you in Kansas City about log costs, blah, blah, blah. What are your own thoughts, you personally, if I asked you to make a case for lumber prices $150 a thousand higher across the board than today, some 90 to 120 days from now?
With everything being where it is in supply and demand, and when I was going down to Kansas City, I thought supply and demand was kind of running. We got a couple extra sticks being produced and being consumed. And we listened to all the mills. They're trying to still take some stuff off, rationalizing capacity. But then on the way back, Gregg showed me a Wall Street Journal article that came out about how none of the home builders can clear the market or sell because some of these big buyers want 20% to 30% discounts to help them clear. So they're slowing down building. I am like on the 80% that we're not going higher right now because I think demand is worse than we think it is. And it's lagging. And I think that when you see people coming out with 50-year mortgage suggestions, that's not because things are clearing really well. It's because affordability. I can't believe I'm jumping all over.
It's like a 7-year car loan.
You are, you're doing stream of consciousness.
If I am, I'm doing it. I'm like speaking in tongues.
I think you're making some.
If I
points.
go and look at the demand out there, and I just look at my social media feed, whether a lot of it's BS or not, in the last week, there's been a big uptick in younger people blaming Gregg, your generation, everybody else for screwing them and affordability. They don't talk about all the money we print and all the other stuff. And then you see Pulte out there floating a 50-year bond. And there's something, and I think government is a lot more intelligent than people think it is. They get the data before we. No, I'm just saying is they get the data before we do. And I think what they're seeing is a slowdown in this between affordability and houses not clearing right now. I'm a little nervous that demand is falling faster than the capacity is coming off.
Yeah.
So just to one thing relative to that, and here's, I saw the 50-year mortgage and, okay, yeah, you lower your payment up front, but over the long term, you're going to pay more in interest. That's great. But when I listened to the Fed last week, the Fed said a couple of things. One which is they're no longer going to be reducing their balance sheet, which means they're going to be buying the bonds as opposed to letting them roll off their balance sheet. The single greatest thing to improve housing affordability would be for the Fed to go ahead and do what they did during COVID, which was buy up mortgage-backed securities. They could drive the price of the 30-year mortgage down from mid-6 to 5% without even blinking an eye. And I think that would unleash a lot of positivity. And then just one other thing, Ash, relative to when you talk about government, Westbury, he was on Fox and Friends, Fox Business yesterday, again, highlighting the fact of how much government is involved in everything that happens, and that's what, government is inefficient with the things that it does. We should find a way for it to do the absolute minimum. I guess my biggest disappointment with Doge and in the shutdown is that we haven't been able, these people fighting so hard to keep big government. And the single greatest thing we could do for that generation that you're talking about, shrink government. smaller government is,
Yeah, but
then
they
better
just
and
voted
bigger
for Mom Dami.
opportunities
He
are
wants
for
the
private.
government to take over your life. You know, I
Man,
mean,
Yeah.
we should
they're voting in the
immediately
opposite
stop
direction
issuing
there,
student
Greg.
loan debt. Stop issuing student loan debt. That's like, it's
Yeah.
criminal to be indebting a younger generation so that we can transfer money through universities to tenured professors
Yeah.
and, like, all sorts of boondoggle stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
You're getting
That's
into
my
a whole
rant. That's
nother
my rant for the
discussion.
day. Rant for the
so
day.
Yeah, that's a
all right.
good
So
one, but that's
so
too long.
what are you guys buying? And
we could
what
we
are you
could
guys
spend hours
buying?
on that.
What are you guys buying and selling right now? Like, I know
Oh.
one of the things we looked at EFPing with this thing was we did 2x10. We did some wides because
Yeah.
I think that's what's your thought, Matt? What are you looking at?
The only thing I've been buying here in the last couple weeks is just 2x4 16s. It doesn't matter really what grade. I've also bought some 2x4 18s and 20s that I either sell them outright as what they are, or I cut them. I literally cut them into 16s. And I mean, if you want to buy 16s and you struggle at times throughout the year to get your fill of them, well, today and yesterday and the day before, and I don't know, the last few weeks, it's been much easier to buy them. And so I like to follow my own advice and say, buy when it's easy and sell when it's hard, And so I'm trying to give people what they want. And I just see a steady stream of 2x4 and 2x6 16-foot inquiry. Doesn't matter if it's utility, economy, number 3, number 2, premium, you name it. I have noticed that there's a lack of Euro premium in my areas. And so I'm getting more inquiry from strays, people in Missouri or Arkansas come in my direction to fulfill their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to buy as heavy as 16 or straight 16, period, and not have to deal with the shrapnel that comes along with it.
Are you still relying on snail mail publications from the 70s to reach the forest products industry? It's time to upgrade. Advertise in the Lumber Word podcast and get in front of the lumber world every single week. Our episodes are tuned in by the largest segment of influencers inside and adjacent to the forest product sector. Decision makers who shape the industry. Ditch those tens of thousands spent on outdated print ads and project your product or service across the podcast universe instead. Ready to make the switch? Head to thelumberchannel.com, click on Connect, and drop us a line with your info. Let's amplify your message today.
Yeah, I think, like, as a base, the first thing Gregg was saying this, I'm thinking we're not going to run our inventory down at this point. Now's not the time to liquidate anything. We sold as hard as we could a few months ago. You start dipping your toes in. Gregg, what is inventory when you have it?
Inventory is an asset.
Yes.
Inventory is an asset. It's
So,
not a liability. It's only a liability if you want to make it a liability. And we have a lot of people in our industry that like to do that. But
Yeah.
so we're looking at buying certain things. Like, hey, I think 2x4, 104 and 5 ace. Yeah, J-Dog just put that up. 104 and 5 ace are pretty cheap. The one thing I'm noticing is a big spread between stud and number 2 on some things. 8-footers seem like they're the Play-Doh fun factory right now. There's somebody on the giant end of it pushing it down, and they're just shooting 8-footers out of an end, right? 2x6, Gregg, I'm going to say 2x6, 104 and 5 ace. That's the low-lying fruit and the really good value out there for people listening.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most undervalued items relative to the hedge. I didn't look at it versus it, and it's actually pretty good in its absolute also.
2x4 12s.
2x4 10s and 12s, 2x4 2x6 9s, and those are all really good, highly liquid items. I mean, Matt, the only thing I'll say about 2x4 16s is they are the most overvalued item right now, but they're also the most liquid item. And so, bought right is half sold.
if you buy them right and then sell the back months against them,
Yeah.
not only are you front loading, buying it at the correct price. That's the key. The key to all these trades is you got to be a sharp buyer in the cash market.
Yeah.
But if you can be a sharp buyer in the cash market, you can add to your liquidity and your protection, your insurance or your mental health, whatever you want to call it, by turning to the next contract in line and picking up a $70 bill. I mean, I can just hang up right now on this pod, call Rob Cross, FC Stone, go sell some more Jans and pick up a $70 bill, right? Okay. It doesn't take a genius to lock in $70 hedges. I mean, that we talk about all the time. We should do that. You shouldn't be out there just buying naked all the time. And Gregg talks about things like 2-before-16s that are quote unquote overvalued on a chart. Well, that may be true, but they're overvalued because people want them, right? It's the only thing they seem to want.
Items.
So now, am I going to buy 100 cars of them? No, but I'll dabble with 5 cars here and there. It's like, it's not going to.
Are you EFPing anything? Are you EFPing anything right now, Matt?
That's why I EFP'd 5 cars of 16s.
But are you seller on any EFPs right now?
Yeah, I do have 5 cars of random 2 before. If somebody wants to EFP with me, I can either EFP them or just sell them to them as cash cars. Same as you.
Yeah, we're EFPing some Hemfer cars or whatever, delivered them, whatever's the easiest to do, right? And
yeah, if anybody wants to EFP Hemfer 2x4s, let us know.
Yeah, and to everybody out there that doesn't think that wholesalers, distributors can EFP, they can. I heard some people are afraid they're going to get old wood and only want to go directly to mills. And you know who you are that say that, because I think that you're just like, somebody's either got pictures of you or they're filling your boat up somewhere because you're EFPing with them.
In both of our cases, I'm the mill. Hampton.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean, even Matt, you can as Hampton Lumber Sales, you can EFP non-Hampton wood if you want to.
One time I EFP'd 20 trucks of Euro spruce out of Houston to a guy in Austin, Texas. You can do whatever you want. I mean, the rules are wide open if you're going through the EFP process.
I had a whole issue too. There's a lot of, it's going to be interesting to see because, we came in this morning with the largest open interest in this new contract going into expiration that we've had. It's it's substantial. It was equivalent to close to 300 cars coming in today. We'll see. I mean, we've had a decent amount of volume today, so we'll see how much that clears up with one day to go tomorrow. But it's it's gonna be interesting to see. All right, guys. Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, I appreciate it.
Love you, brother.
You guys are great. It's been an interesting fall so far, huh? Let's see how it turns out.
Never a dull moment, that's for sure. Cheers, guys.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.